Are you over 50 and feel like you're spinning your wheels at the gym? You're there regularly, you're putting in the time, you're getting your workouts in, but you're not getting any stronger. You might actually be getting weaker and your lifts might actually be going down. Your energy's lower and you don't feel as strong as you used to. I want to tell you about Gary. Gary was doing all the things that he was supposed to do. He was eating pretty good, he was regularly in the gym, he was getting good sleep, but he wasn't getting any stronger. And as a matter of fact, he started to get weaker. Gary was to the point where he was just about ready to quit until he figured out this one critical mistake that he was making and the solution that we're going to talk about today. In the next few minutes, I'll show you what that mistake is and a simple shift that will not only stop that mistake, but turn it around so that you can build and keep muscle in your 50s, 60s, and beyond. Gary's story might sound familiar. He was consistent at the gym 3 times a week, including some cardio, but he wasn't getting any stronger. As a matter of fact, he found things getting more difficult, carrying groceries, playing with his grandkids, even getting up from a seated position became a little bit more difficult for him. What he was fighting is a real condition called sarcopenia, age-related muscle loss. After 30, we can lose 3 to 5% of muscle per decade, and that process speeds up after 50. Strength can drop even faster, up to 5% per year. And it's not just cosmetic. It affects our health, our balance, and our independence. Muscle is truly the organ of longevity. Studies show that maintaining muscle has a direct effect on lifespan and quality of life. So why wasn't Gary's training working? He was dedicated and motivated, but the problem wasn't effort, it was how he was training. He'd rush through sets, swinging the weights, his mind elsewhere. He was just checking off the boxes of doing this set or doing this exercise. He wasn't really challenging his muscles. His body was there, but his mind wasn't. And this disconnect is the breeding ground for the mistake that we're talking about. So what's the big mistake? It's training with your ego and not your intellect. It's just thinking about how big the weight is or how heavy the weight is that you're moving and using instead of actually engaging the muscles that should be firing to move that weight. When we were young, we got away with sloppy form. Our hormones do a lot of the work. But after 50, our neuromuscular connection isn't as sharp. So just moving a weight doesn't guarantee you're sending a growth signal to the right muscle. And that's what was happening with Gary. On curls, his back and shoulders did most of the work. On incline bench press, his chest barely fired while his shoulders took the beating. He was completing reps, but not recruiting muscle fibers where it counted. Now, the other side is we can get cautious with age and we back right off on the weight. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. We've talked about that on this channel lots about appropriate weights for what you're doing. However, backing off on the weights doesn't mean we back off on the intensity and we just kind of mail in the workouts. Building muscle after 50 is as much mental as it is physical. And establishing that mind-muscle connection is vital to maintain your muscle and grow muscle in your 50s. So to fix this, we need to focus on 2 parts. Number 1 is the mind-muscle connection, and number 2 is the tempo, and with that comes time under tension for our muscles. But let's start with the mind-muscle connection. And this, for me personally, has been something I've really focused on in this past year. And by doing so, I've seen a real improvement in my lifts, in my strength, and even in my size. And here's the thing. When you go to do an exercise, let's say it's going to be arm curls, you need to really kind of take a minute, and I do this, is I stop when I get to the exercise. I'm going to do arm curls, and I think about, okay, I'm going to use my biceps here. This is not swinging my back. This is not using my shoulders. I'm going to be strict and under control and focus on the muscles that I want to engage. And I kind of think it through in my head. Okay, here's what it's going to feel like. Here's where I'm going to flex, and I'm going to focus on that contraction of the muscles instead of just moving the weight. And really, that's a simple thing to do. Before you lift, pause and think about the target muscle. If you're doing curls, picture your biceps contracting. You can even touch the muscles to give your brain feedback. And as you lift, really feel it and shorten and squeeze, and that conscious effort recruits more muscle fibers with every rep count. Okay, next is your tempo, the lifting speed. There's a friend of mine that he trains with me once in a while, but I laugh with him about this because I say to him all the time, remember, it's weight lifting, it's not weight throwing. And that's the issue that a lot of people have, is they're training too fast so that their muscles are not having to do all the work because the momentum can carry the weight, move the weight a little bit. So our rule of thumb should be 3 to 5 seconds on the lowering eccentric phase, and then probably 1 to 2 seconds on the lifting phase. You want more explosive power coming out of the lift, but still under control and still, not using momentum. So at the bottom, if you're doing, let's say you're doing some kind of squat, you might come down to the bottom and just pause for a second or two. Or if you're doing arm curls, come down to the bottom, pause for a count of 1 or 2, and then curl back up. I do the same thing with pull downs, is I will extend all the way up and let it just stretch right out and wait 1, 2, and then back. So that escalates time under tension. So it forces our muscles to actually work through the whole process, and where we're not going to swing the weight, we're not going to cheat the form in any way. And the other thing this will do is it protects us from getting injured, because, here's the other thing. When we're in our 50s, 60s, 70s, an injury is a lot bigger deal, and recovering from an injury is a lot bigger deal than when we were in our 20s. Now, take the principle of this exercise and that you've learned here and take it to the gym with you for all of your other training, and you'll find that you'll get better engagement with your muscles as you're training. And I know for me, one of the big ones this has really helped with is my rear delts, because I can't see my rear delts, and for me, it makes a difference for engaging the muscle. So I noticed this really helped me out with all of my body parts, but especially my rear delts. Getting stronger after 50 isn't about a magic pill. It's about training with intention. Leave the ego at the door. Focus on quality, control, and connection. When you do, your workouts become safer, smarter, and more effective. That's what Gary found out. He focused on lowering the weight and focusing the form, engaging his mind-muscle connection, and sticking with that tempo. And for the first time in years, Gary started to get stronger. His muscles started to respond, and he started to feel physically better and stronger, and was more active and more able to be involved with his family. And so can you. It's not too late. The journey starts right now, not with a heavier weight, but with a sharper focus. Thank you for joining me today. Please take a minute and subscribe to the channel, like the video. That just helps us out. And we'll see you next time. Keep punching.